What is up, guys? We're just dancing. We're having a good time. We're here for a fun little episode. Hello and welcome to Three Big Things, a CineBoiz, but not the CineBoiz podcast, part of the Cork Bats podcast network. I'm Kenny from Cork Bats, head boy of the CineBoiz, and Three Big Things is a podcast where I sit down with a guest or guests for an in-depth discussion on specific movies and TV shows, and maybe games. We talked about it. It might happen. Hey, you know what? Stay tuned. There might be a Three Big Things on a game coming soon. We'll see. Why is it called Three Big Things? Simple. We're going to give you three big things, sometimes more, that we think make this movie or TV show special or not so special. Warning, this is no longer a spoiler-free podcast. We toyed around with the idea of it being a spoiler-free podcast, but I did some soul searching, and I realized if we really want to have good conversations, from now on, this is no longer a spoiler-free podcast. So if you're listening and you have not seen Oppenheimer yet, which you've had plenty of time, we took our time on this one. If you have not seen Oppenheimer yet and don't want it spoiled, I mean, you pretty much probably already know what happens, unless, of course, you're Logan Paul. Unless, of course, you're this guy.
I walked out of Oppenheimer. Separately, 18 minutes into Interstellar, and I was considering walking out because it was so slow. And now Interstellar is my top 3 favorite movies.
You walked out of Oppenheimer?
I didn't know what they were trying. What are you doing? It's just everyone's just talking. It's just an hour and a half, 90 minutes. It's all exposition. Just talking.
I feel like I would not enjoy hanging out with those guys.
They just scream a lot.
Imagine walking out of Interstellar and then using that as an example as to why you walked out of Oppenheimer.
Yeah. But then he also says that Interstellar now is one of his top 3 favorite movies, which is like, dude, maybe stick around for the rest of Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I almost walked out of Interstellar, but then I didn't, and now it's a top 3 favorite movie, but I walked out of Oppenheimer. What?
Yeah. I think what we should do just for like a test, so we can just be a little bit more high energy. I want to scream like those guys. So here's what we're going to do real quick. All right. I'm just going to say something like, hey, let's talk about Oppenheimer. And then I want you guys to go like, oh, like those guys. Does that work?
Yeah.
cool.
All right. This is for Kevin because he's the one who makes the clips. All right. We're now high energy like Logan Paul's podcast. Let's talk about Oppenheimer.
Oh,
shit!
No! We're going to do that.
Dude, that's going to be great. That's going to make for good content. I'm excited about that. So if you haven't guessed it by now, this week we are discussing Oppenheimer, which, yes, it's been a month, almost a month to the day that Oppenheimer came out in theaters. But it's one that we have all seen now, and we've all been wanting to talk about it. And so we figured, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go ahead and release an Oppenheimer. It's an Oppenheimer podcast. It's still out in theaters. You can go see it. It's still making money. In fact, this week it was announced that it is now the highest grossing movie of all time to never hit #1 at the box office.
Yeah.
That's which is quite a feat.
And you should see it in the theater. You're doing yourself a disservice if you do not see this one in the theater.
Yes. If you can see it at IMAX also. I did not, but
I didn't either.
I hear seeing it in IMAX is a religious experience, one would say. So, yeah.
Huh.
Today, I'm going to be joined by 2 other CineBoiz, Mob and Tom. Guys, how are you?
Oh, great.
Well, I'm really glad you're here. And I'm really excited to talk about this movie because I know we've kind of talked about it. Like none of us have had like a conversation with each other about Oppenheimer. Barbie kind of dominated the conversation. We did a 3 big things on Barbie 3 weeks ago. And so now we get some time to actually like really hear each other's opinions and what we thought were the big things about Oppenheimer. And you know what? There's a lot of big things to choose from. So it's going to hopefully be for, make for a really good conversation. So if you're not aware of what Oppenheimer is, it's a movie directed by Christopher Nolan. Probably who would you compare him to? Like, and say he would be of our time.
I don't know. I don't think you can.
He's kind of his own thing. He's the Christopher Nolan of our time.
I mean,
he's just Christopher Nolan.
He's the guy who, whenever a movie of his comes out, no matter what it is, it's going to be kind of an event. You know,
Yeah.
like he's
It's-
gotten to that point. Whether the movie is, you know, Interstellar or it's Tenet, like it's still going to be something that people are going to talk about, and it's going to be an event.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's for sure. And there might be a handful of directors out there who we would consider in that realm, but if we're just talking like mainstream, like
Mass
general
appeal.
public, people who aren't obsessed with movies necessarily, people are still excited to go see a Christopher Nolan movie. So, yeah, that's he's one of a kind. He's special. And he has yet to make a movie where I don't like it at all.
Right.
There isn't a single one where I'm at least, isn't a single one where I've been like, yeah, that one's bad. They're all good. There's a few that are probably not my favorite, probably won't revisit, but yeah, it's hard to find a bad Christopher Nolan movie. But anyways, directed by Christopher Nolan, stars Cillian Murphy.
Killian.
Okay. Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, you name it. Rami Malek, Aaron Wright. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Like literally a lot of just like actors from like our childhood.
Yeah.
Josh Peck.
Yeah.
Arnett, like a lot of like kid stars who just showed up in a Nolan movie all of a sudden. But anyways, so what we're gonna do is we've each kind of brought one big thing we want to talk about, or the thing that maybe stood out to us the most, and then we'll just kind of discuss that. And again, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so there will likely be spoilers, even though this is a thing of history and you should know what happens. But there's a lot of stuff in this movie that I had no idea took place. So there's that. So if you don't want the movie spoiled, maybe stop listening. Or just like keep listening and then just mute it, or like take your headphones out so we get the play. It's not a bad idea. But anyways, I think we should start with Mob. Mob, what is one big thing you took away from Oppenheimer?
The thing that honestly impressed me the most and that I thought about the most afterwards, quite honestly, was Robert Downey Jr.'s performance.
Yeah, that's what oh man, yes.
I hope you brought a backup, Tom.
So good. I've got
one. It's hard because like I enjoy him as Iron Man and as Tony Stark, and like there's no one else who could ever do that. But like movies like this make me wonder what we lost from him in that time, because you look at his last Oscar nomination, Tropic Thunder, and I'm assuming he's getting nominated for this and should be a front runner.
Definitely should be.
He's done. Let me go through this: The Soloist, Sherlock Holmes, and this is all non-Marvel movies. Due Date, Chef, The Judge, and Doolittle. That is his list of non-Marvel movies.
Doolittle.
Doolittle.
What
that was the last time we saw Robert Downey Jr. Before.
Yeah, I think I saw an interview with him, or heard or read an interview with him where he talked about how like that was his comeback to Earth movie, where he's like, I've been doing these Marvel movies for so long, it's like I feel like I can't miss, and then I do that, and it's like, I'm human.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you. It is an incredible performance, and one of the things about it is that it is Robert Downey Jr. It's obvious that it's Robert Downey Jr., but it doesn't feel like a very Robert Downey Jr. kind of role. It's very like serious, what's the best way to describe it? It's not.
He's not Tony Stark.
He's not Tony Stark.
You know, I think a lot of times we just get Tony Stark. Well, and what I really love about it is like the first and second act, you're not positive. He's like this kind old guy. You're like, it's this kind old scientist. And then in the third act, when you find out that he's the one who's setting up Oppenheimer to take all this bad stuff, and he's put this whole plan in motion, that devious turn, and you can tell in the character and in the way he plays it, there's this devious turn, and now he's just it feels extremely evil, and he played it so well.
Yeah, that scene where he's kind of like explaining his whole like reasoning to what's the kid's name who played Solo?
Aiden Eric.
Yeah, that kid. Whenever that scene, he's just giving that whole exposition, like it was just that was my favorite part, I think, because he just did it with such conviction that I just felt like that's probably the best piece of acting he's done in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, it's very good.
That'll be the Oscar scene.
Yeah, it for sure. And I think he's a lock, at least for a nomination. You could make an argument for win. Yeah. Although we're still pretty early. It's August. Movie came out in July. There's still a lot of movies come out. A lot of Oscar-y drama movies. So we'll see. But I think right now I can't think of enough performances that are coming that I think are going to edge him out of getting a nomination. Right. And you know what's funny is you could make the case for a few people in this movie getting at least a supporting actor nomination.
I think most of the names in the movie, like Matt Damon, I could see it.
Great.
I mean, Cillian Murphy is going to get a nomination too, I would assume, for Best Actor.
You know what? I'll go ahead and put it out here. I think not only, am I going to say it? Yeah, I'm going to say it.
Do it.
I'm going to say it just because it gets clicks. It's clickbait. You ready? Not only will he get nominated, I think he's going to win.
Cillian Murphy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he'll win. That's where I'm at.
He was incredibly good as well, which is why like Robert Downey Jr.'s performance to me just blew me away, because you had these two powerhouse performances, and one of them is the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Constantly after the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic performances from not just them, but the entire cast. And I think I wrote in my spoiler-free review that this is probably Christopher Nolan's best cast. Hands down. I can't think of another movie where like top to bottom it was so well acted and cast. So
I was thinking, like, after the movie and during the movie, I was thinking to myself, do you think David O. Russell saw this movie and was like, dang it? Yeah. How come he gets a good cast, a good massive
How does he
cast,
do it?
and it's a great movie, and I get one and they're just kind of bleh.
Yeah. Have you seen Amsterdam?
So
bad.
We got 5 minutes into it, and then I think Taylor Swift started singing, and we were just like, this isn't it.
This is not what we wanted.
And we turned it off and watched something else.
Yeah. This is kind of a sidetrack in the same realm, but me and my wife finally watched Babylon a couple weeks ago. Whoa. Like, it started out and I was like, I don't understand why people hated this movie so much. Like, I was really into it probably for the first solid hour of 3. And it's a long one. And I was like, this is great. And then it just takes some turns where you're just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I can't watch this. This is wild. But anyways, I digress. I just wanted to shout that out since I hadn't talked about it on the podcast yet. And I'm sorry to all like the Twitter people who were super into Babylon. Like, cool. I'm sorry, but yeah. Well, cool. Mob, thanks for your big thing on Oppenheimer. So let's move on to Tom. Tom, what's your big thing on Oppenheimer? Even though Mob stole it.
Yeah. Well, aside from RDJ. I think my other big thing that just kind of hit me maybe partway through the movie was I just thought it was really cool how Oppenheimer was not portrayed as like a good or bad guy. Like they just kind of portrayed him as, here's this brilliant scientist who was asked to develop this super weapon to, help with the war effort. And he was very fallible character. He had affairs. He was kind of a shitty person, but he was also the only scientist who could probably have made that kind of thing happen. And so I just think that was a really cool way to, feature it and not give like one way or the other, like, he was all good or he was all bad. I don't know. I just thought that was I think that's like a smart way to tell a story also. I don't know. Just kind of leave that up to the audience to kind of decide for yourself.
Yeah. My first reaction would be to say that, like, oh, well, he was flawed. But I feel like that's
Definitely.
yeah, but I feel like that's too simplistic. Like
Right.
it's way more like I had an idea of what this movie was going to be about, and it really wasn't that. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't like I just thought it was going to be like making the bomb. And really
Yeah.
what it's about is like yes, that takes a huge part of the movie. It is a big part of it. But really it's like how the outside world in so many different ways is affected by it. And it's, deals a lot with politics. Shout out to Gary Oldman, who plays
Yeah.
Harry Truman, and he's kind of a dick, which really bummed me out because I did like a report on Harry Truman in 5th grade, and it was like, yeah, what a
He's
hero.
Kindly old grandpa.
Nope, threw that out the window. So, yeah, no, it's the movie is so, and yeah, he's the central figure. He's the one that really it's focused on, but you learn so much about like politics, the military. I had no idea what happened after, like,
Right.
all the years after and what became of him. Like, I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah.
So it's so much more than just a bomb movie.
Yeah, I mean, to go deeper into that, like it's kind of a look at human nature in the sense that you've got this guy who's a theoretical scientist. He gets so wrapped up in his idea of what he can make, and he's in theoretics. Like he's not thinking about what actually happens afterwards, just the theory of it all, the concept of it all. And then he gets to do it. He makes the bomb. It gets dropped on 2 cities in Japan, and then he's like, "Oh, this isn't theoretical anymore. This is real," and then it deals with his, what he does after that. And so that's why, like, when you say that, Tom, they don't say he's good, he's not good, he's not bad. It's like it's him figuring that out the entire time too, and trying to make up for that, for his bad mistakes, but also weirdly not being like regretting what he made either. It's such a cool kind of look at human nature.
Yeah. It is very interesting. And I wrote about that in the review as well. That's on Cork Bats. And basically, it's just like, it's just so much more than what you think it's going to be. And for poor Logan Paul, like his head probably would have exploded. So maybe it's probably good that he did walk out. Because I mean, it's not like Interstellar in the sense of like, Interstellar really picks up and there's a lot of action in Interstellar. This movie doesn't have really a lot of action, like at all. Like the most action you see in it is when they drop the bomb, and that's not a very big part of the movie.
No.
It's a lot of talking.
It's a bunch of white dudes talking. Yeah. And like for a 3-hour movie, you would think 3 hours of just conversation moves slow. Nope.
Right. And that's why we keep our podcasts under an hour, because we're just 4 white guys talking, and it's like you can only take so much of that.
Yeah.
As much as I like the sound of my own voice. Well, that's great, Tom. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Oh, is that some Liquid Death mango, bro?
Yeah, bro.
Oh,
love it,
baby.
So
have you had the severed lime?
Yeah, bro.
Oh gosh, that's
what about the convicted melon?
Sure
haven't had it.
Oh, it's real good.
Oh dang!
Look, there's not a bad flavor.
No.
Oh, it's so good. Anyways.
You can't get Liquid Death at Costco.
Well, let me round us out with my big thing on Oppenheimer. So let me, if you will, pop Oppenheimer.
Excuse me.
I've been saving that all day. I thought about that on my walk earlier. I'm going to say pop Oppenheimer at some point in the podcast today. So yeah, my big thing on Oppenheimer is more of a technical thing. I think that this movie is an absolute lock for sound editing, sound mixing, and visual effects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the craziest sounding movie in the best way. Like the way that they use sound in this movie is mind-blowing, especially not even like necessarily when they're dropping the bomb, but the whole scene in the gym when he's like addressing everybody at Los Alamos after they drop the bomb, and there's just like he's having these like this inner conflict about what they've done and what it means, and he's trying to address everybody and get them like amped, and it is crazy the way that they use sound to like kind of get that scene across.
Yeah. They do it again later in his trial, I think, when Jason Clarke is like yelling at him and like you're trying to hear what he's saying, but you just hear the vibrations going on in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also the visual effects of how they're trying to use practical effects to kind of show like quantum mechanics in a way. And it's brilliant. Like the beginning, the opening of the movie where you're not even really sure what you're looking at, but you're like,
it's like a bunch of sparks and stuff.
This is wild.
It's so beautiful.
It's all done practically. There's no CGI in that whatsoever. And there's actually a really cool like YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, some guy just like, I'm just going to go in my garage and remake these. And he does it perfectly. And he shows you in his garage how he did it. And it's like, damn, that's real cool. But yeah, I think when we get to early spring next year and we're in awards season, I think this is just going to clean up on a lot of those technical Oscars or technical awards. I don't think there's a movie that even stands a chance to come close to it. Like, because I mean, there's so many movies these days that are just pumped full of CGI.
Yeah.
And it looks terrible. And thank God there's unionizing with this, because I think it's going to make things a lot better. But it's, gosh, this movie's beautiful. And it sounds beautiful, and it blew me away. So yeah, I mean that's really my big thing is, come award season, I think Oppenheimer's going to run away with a lot of those. So yeah, well, let me ask you this, guys: is there anything else? Is there a fourth big thing that somebody wants to throw out there that maybe we can talk about? Because there's a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could go. The one thing. The way Nolan decided to say, hey, black and white, it's historically accurate. Color, this is kind of conjecture of what might have gone on. And the way that he did that, like, it's something new that hasn't been done before. And it makes so much sense.
I didn't even know that what was going on.
That's why that's why it went in and out between color and black and white. Black and white was so much historically accurate. That actually happened. Color was conjecture of what Nolan just kind of assumed what was going on in between.
Interesting.
The lines.
That's crazy. Wow. Makes me want to go back and watch it again.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Guys, this has been wonderful. And we gave you 4 big things. You got an extra big thing in there. So really, honestly, if you decided, hey, I don't care about spoilers, but I haven't seen the movie, I just want to hear these guys talk, go see it. Like, it's great. And if you've seen it already, go see it again.
Nothing we've said is really going to ruin your experience.
Not at all.
I would say it's pretty spoiler free.
Spoiler, they dropped the bomb.
Yeah,
right.
Well, if you didn't know that,
there's technical spoilers in this, but like it's not going to ruin your experience.
Yeah. Also, just shout out to Josh Hartnett. Where the hell
I wanted to bring that up. Oh man. I don't know why I just got that excited, but he's really good.
He's fantastic in it. He reminds me of a young Richard Gere in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. He's great. Yeah.
Handsome as ever.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks great. It's what a great cast. So many you're in this movie moments. So Rami Malek, who basically doesn't do anything for the entire movie, and then all of a sudden is just let me just
drops a bomb,
steal the scene here. Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that not because I have anything against Rami Malek, but just because I thought it would be funny that we would get through the whole movie and he would not have one speaking line.
Yeah,
right.
It feels like that at some point because you're there's Rami Malek. Is he going to say anything? Or
he just dropped a clipboard. He's not going to say anything about that.
All right, cool. Yeah. He was probably just really excited to work with Christopher Nolan. I get it. I understand. I'd do the same thing.
I would take a non-speaking part to be in a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, there you go. Go check out Oppenheimer, guys. It's been wonderful. I'm so glad you got to hang out with me today. Yeah, I know it's been a month, but go see it. It's still in theaters. Probably will be for a while. So yeah, don't waste any time. But yeah, this is 3 Big Things, part of the CineBoiz podcast, or excuse me, a CineBoiz podcast, but not the CineBoiz podcast. We're part of the Cork Bats Podcast Network. You can find us on social media at CineBoiz on Twitter and Instagram. Also, be sure to check out Cork Bats on social media at Cork Bats on Twitter and Instagram. And then, of course, check out corkbats.com. You can read our review of Oppenheimer, which has been up for a while now. And yeah, guys, have a great rest of your week.
Right back at you.
Bye. 90% of people who listen to our podcast just listen for the song, even though it gets flagged on YouTube sometimes. Don't know why. See you guys.
Bye.